that one of the caravans.
All right, so we go.
So what's the cost of 10,000 immigrants? I mean, really, that's a very small number of people compared to the 350 million Americans who are alive today. It's a seemingly insignificant small percentage increase. Well, if I were to say that it only costs to keep an immigrant alive $10,000 a year in American dollars, right? That's all they're going to cost us is $10,000. What the heck? You know, how can that be a big deal? Well, if you do the quick math, 10,000 immigrants times $10,000 per year is $100 million. Now, the estimates for the number of immigrants that move back and forth, and I'm talking about all of them, the productive as well as the non-productive, right? It runs into the tens of millions of people coming up from Mexico every year. Now, the productive ones are wonderful. They're doing hard jobs, they're working their tails off, they're getting paid, they spend some of their money here, and then they take that money out of the country, and that's a negative thing. It really is a negative thing. But that $10,000 a year that I brought up per immigrant, you know, that's coming up right now in this caravan, do you really think we only spend $10,000 on them? Right, a minimum wage worker makes what, $20,000 a year? Half of that goes to rent, another half goes to food, and by the time you half and take their money out half at a time, they're not left with any real disposable income. Right? And that doesn't cover medical expenses and other things. These immigrants that are coming up, they aren't costing a mere $10,000 a year. They're more than likely costing between $20,000 and $30,000 a year. Now, I'm going to say $20,000 for an adult, and I'm going to say $30,000 for a child. And you might say, John, how can you charge so much more, or think that it's going to cost so much more for a child? Well, they need to go to school. School costs money, books, everything that goes into school. And to say, well, you're just adding one child to each classroom, that's not really fair. It's the total cost of education. I guess you could break it down that way and say, well, they just need one more book and a few more sheets of paper. What's the big deal, John? When you look at the overall cost of education, the cost of the teacher, the cost of the facility, the cost of administration, the cost of supplies, the cost of food, the cost of security. And instead of just saying, well, just put that child in a corner and let them learn, truly amortize, right? That full cost of the education system across every student, and you get to see a more realistic cost per child per year. And these children and these adults that are coming up from Mexico, they aren't the productive business people that we would hope to get, the educated people that we would hope to get, right? That would improve our country greatly. In a lot of cases, we get laborers, and that's a good thing in a lot of cases. But we're also getting people who aren't laborers, who have no skills to offer. And right now, in a tightening economy, it's just not a great idea, right, to add more labor to a labor pool that's already a bit expansive. But these same people, children and adults, because they've been living in abject poverty down where they came from, they're bringing the consequences of that abject poverty home to America, right? That sickness, that poor health is going to have a cost. When you come to America, you don't just get a little bit of food and a little bit of spending money. You get other services, social services, and medical services. And having just spent, I think, a grand total of 3.5 hours in the hospital, I racked up a bill that I have to pay all over $5,000 for 3 hours of sitting on a bed and going, this hurts. That's what it costs. So all of these people coming up, if they have an illness and they go to the hospital once, the emergency room, if they go twice, if they go 3 or 4 times, how about 5, 6 times, once only every other month, they take their health condition to a hospital every other month, and they get an equivalent cost to what I had done, right? Sitting in a bed, some medication, and a doctor looking at you. That's going to have a cost of what? 6 times 5,000. That's another $30,000 a year per patient. And so that 100,000 or 100 million cost for 10,000 immigrants at only $10,000 a piece, that $100 million starts to look more like $1 billion, right? Times 10. They want 100,000. They want 1 million people a year. Now that cost, that 100 million people, or 10,000 people at $10,000, which is 100 million, right? That becomes $1 billion on the baseline. But if you add in those other costs like medicine and social services, education, that $1 billion quickly becomes 10 billion or 20 billion. Right? With an overall budget of
Okay, guys. So this 22 minutes long, so I'm not going to go through everything. Hope you learned something. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel. Hit that thumbs up if you like it, if you're not, whatever. I will see you later. Peace. And hair grease to you.